engineer and instructor at Terrapin Technology. And unfortunately, our co-host today, Betty Nelson, I'll have to take a moment and just say we're going to miss you. She's not with us today. She has moved on to working with the district attorney's office in Maine and doing trial prep. So we congratulate her on that new job position she has, and that she has lots of success. And she will definitely be missed. But now, on to our topic for this month. And I have to say, this is a topic that I get a lot of interest in, especially from families, but also from a lot of our businesses where they're just concerned with security and what's going on. And rightly so. There's a lot to be interested in. You're talking about social media. There are lots of things that, wait, just narrowing it down to just 10 topics was extremely difficult. But there are two primary areas to really think about when it comes to protecting yourself and staying safe on social media. So let's go ahead and talk about those. One of those here, this is dealing with cyberbullying. Now, cyberbullying is nothing new to those who are familiar with social media. And social media, like anything else, is a great tool. You can use it to keep tabs on your friends, but you can also use it to make someone's life extremely miserable. And social media enables, just an unprecedented amount of access to people's photos, your whereabouts, even for some people, even their dating history, and more and more and more. And on social sites, you can send just one compromising photo, and it can go out to thousands of people at one time, and essentially greatly amplifying the threat of blackmail. Yeah, we're not going to steer away from that, using that term. And when we talk about cyber stalking or cyber bullying, we do need to be careful not to victim blame. But at the same time, we absolutely need to know how to make good decisions with the information that we put on the internet. And unfortunately, anything you post that's publicly visible, or anything you send privately via text or message app, could be used against you. And that could also be or include your children. And we think about them. Having children myself, it's something I think about and I keep guard on and stay actively invested in with them. But now that's only one area. The other area that we want to talk about also has to deal with the security side of things. And one of the trending news headlines of the 21st century has really been criminals attacking celebrities, government officials, social media accounts. I think in one news report, they said that there's been an increase of about 43% in social media frauds since 2019. That's just a couple of years ago. And cyber criminals are looking for new ways to exploit platforms. There's always the go-tos like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, but you have a vast variety of others that go from Tinder, and then you have Snapchat, and all the different ones. So they'll come up with different names and different venues and different outlets, but essentially any social media platform. And in the cybersecurity community, we often see social media as what we refer to as a threat vector, or simply a means to an end for the cyber criminals. And we see this in the case of I can't even say the word, cyber criminals spreading malware and misinformation. For example, in May of, this goes a little bit back, shows you how long it's been going on. Back in 2016, LinkedIn was hacked and 117 million credentials were exposed. 2017, Vivo fell victim to a phishing attack, and they had 3.12 terabytes of sensitive company data that were exfiltrated. And then back in 2017, again, there was an issue with Slack. It was hacked. That's very, very popular with both companies and individuals. And as a result, 500,000 of Ether coins were stolen because it was a cyber currency Bitcoin hack. And then Twitter, back in July 2020, influential accounts were used to do a Bitcoin theft operation. So, definite reason to be concerned. The big question is, why in the world do they pay attention? What's the why do they do it? Well, attacking social media platforms can result in some really, really good financial gains for the cyber criminals. Number one, it's money. Two, a mass audience. It's a big target, and that draws them in. And then social media platforms are pretty much where everything is at when it comes to cyber warfare and trying to gather information and attack multiple and multitudes of people. So it's worthy to give it its due diligence and to think about it. So what do I do? That's the confusion state of it. That's the big question that we get many a times is I want to use social media. I am using it. I don't really know if I'm safe. How do I stay safe? What do I do? I don't know where to start. Well, to be honest, narrowing it down, like I said, to just these 10 items today was a real challenge. And I hope that these suggestions that we're going to offer will help get you started in what to think about and to make you more informed so that you have a basic level of understanding on how to secure things and stay safe. Let's go ahead and start with the number one topic here. Number one is just locking it down. Now, check the settings in your social media accounts. Make sure that your phone number, your email addresses are hidden from public view. And here are a couple platform specific recommendations you can use for this. For example, here I highlighted Facebook. And this is if you're doing it from your mobile phone. Specifically, I took these screenshots from an iPhone. But if you adjust your privacy settings to make your posts visible only to friends or friends of friends rather than making them public, that's a huge start. And this is an example of where you can find that within the iOS app. Other settings that you can keep in mind when it comes to this, also within Facebook, is this is from the website here, is whether or not you're going to allow social media sites to comb through your contacts or interact with other sites. It's recommended that you don't do that. It is nice and it's convenient, but that convenience also comes at a price. And so we don't really recommend doing that unless you know what you're doing or are keeping a strict watch out on what's going on. And that way you know what's being shared and with whom, and you know where those settings are kept at. Another place where you can tie things down, lock it down, and this is an example of Twitter. Unchecking the discoverability boxes in Twitter's safety and security controls, and this will prevent searches from using your email address and phone number, which a lot of times they use to be able to garner information, and you'll get targeted ads. You'll see that. Do a search on Google for outdoor wood stoves, and all of a sudden you're seeing all these ads for outdoor wood stoves pop up at Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and you're, what in the world's going on? There you go. If you're only using Twitter for private communications as opposed to like business networking, you may want to consider the protect your tweets section, and that's highlighted here in this screenshot box. And this will limit your post visibility to only your followers rather than it being publicly available. And that's a really good rule of thumb for all of your personal accounts, not necessarily business accounts. Typically, you do want those to be public facing. But for personal accounts, it's almost always a good idea not to make it public and to make it private, where you have to accept invitations for people to see what you're posting rather than being available to everybody under the sun in that way. Here's another one for Instagram. If you plan to share personal images and you're not, promoting a business like we talked about, you may want to consider setting your account in this to private. And that will do what I just mentioned about making it available and what you post only to the people that you accept invitations from and add as being part of your followers of that application. Of course, that means you do have to accept the invitations for them to be able to view your information. That does take a little bit of work rather than being open to the public. But then again, it's your information, your security, your posts, your pictures, and that way you get to share it with whom you specifically desire to do so. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is something that Betty and I had mentioned numerous times when talking about security, and this is referring to two-factor authentication. A lot of times you'll see the acronym 2FA or multi-factor authentication, MFA, to prevent someone from hacking your account. If they were to happen to garner your login username or email and the password, the 2FA would prevent them from being able to get in. Now, there was a time when it was considered prudent to exclude like your phone number from social networking profiles, but that's something that you want to revisit. Now, we just mentioned about not putting your phone number in social media profiles, and that's if it's publicly visible. But when it comes to 2FA, this will be part of your profile, so it knows what it is. And if you supply your phone number and then you use it to uh, receive a text message, or you can use a two-factor authentication app like the Microsoft Authenticator, the Google Authenticator. One Password has it built in also. We'll talk about that in a little bit. To confirm your identity when you log on with a new device. And this process is all part of what's called the two-factor authentication or login verification. And that way you can keep your account secure, even if someone were to gain access to your username and password, or they were stolen or hacked from another website. Uh, Here's, I put small screenshots here of where you could do that in Facebook and also in Twitter. Great places to start and set that up. Facebook also allows you to adjust various security settings, such as getting alerts for unrecognized logins. So when someone logs in from a new device or web browser that it hasn't had you log in from before, and usually does that from the IP address, it'll notify you. That's a good thing. That way you know if your site or your login credentials are being used without your knowledge. But basically, if a site offers 2FA, use it. Take the time, set it up. Yes, it is a pain where a pill can't reach, but you know what's worse? Having your information hacked or your identity stolen. So it's worth it. It's just the time we live in, and it's a very easy, preventable uh, option that you can install and take advantage of to be more secure. Now, what else? Well, you've always heard the term location, location, location. And that applies to pretty much everything that you do on the net, especially your mobile phone, and what social media sites can garner from that information. Take care to avoid sharing your street address. Uh, that's going to help thieves target your home if you share that information. You're on vacation. Hey, we're on vacation. You have a publicly accessible Twitter or Instagram account, and now everyone knows, just like this little uh, text message I have here on your screen. This was posted from the sheriff's department from a county in Washington state that was trying to help people to understand by posting things on social media that talk about your whereabouts on social media. You might as well announce to the world, including all the thieves, that your home is ripe for the picking. No one's there. Go ahead and break on in. So be careful. Also, be careful about what's in the background of your pictures. If you take pictures of documents, or you're next to your car and it has your license plate or your street address in the background, do you have pictures in your background that show certificates or addresses or personal information? Bear in mind that you can disclose all of this information inadvertently without typing a thing if you just allow your post or your image to be tagged with that, or the location or GPS information inside the actual picture that you upload to Twitter or to Instagram. So to prevent that, you can disable location tagging. Now, in Twitter, that's located, there's a box called Tweet with Location. There's a box on the privacy and safety settings page where you can turn that off. And for Facebook and Instagram mobile apps, you have to go to your phone's settings, find location services, and then disable them for the Facebook and Instagram apps. And that will help protect you. Again, a lot of this is just knowing what it's sharing, and then you can make an informed decision of whether or not you want to share that. And the process may differ somewhat from one manufacturer's phone to the next. And if you have trouble finding any of these settings for your phone, please consult your phone's user guide, or feel free to reach out to us and we can help you with that and making sure you're safe in that regard. The next thing that we want to talk about is, watch out. Who are your friends? You can have some really bad association with any of these social media accounts because pretty much there's no way to really authenticate who's behind that screen. If you receive a request to connect with someone you know, but who you thought you were already a friend or follower with, double check your friends list before accepting the invitation. If the sender is already on your list, the chances are really, really good that their account has been hacked. And scammers will even use bogus accounts cloned from real users to collect friends and then rely on these mutual friends to extend their fake networks. And the fake account may use photos from your friend's real account to trick you as well, their profile. I think most sites, such as Facebook, they have a provision for reporting what they call these imposters that automatically notifies the friend who's being impersonated as part of the process. I think on Twitter and on Instagram, the impersonated persons, so that would be the person who's been hacked, would have to report the phony accounts themselves. So that way, you probably would want to message your followers and let them know that they're being misrepresented. So if you see something like that, and that's very, very common to happen, unfortunately. The other area is social logins. Now, social logins are really, really helpful. In this age of having to remember passwords for every nook and cranny and website that you use is difficult. So many third-party websites give the option of registering using Facebook, Google, Twitter, and so forth, using those credentials instead of setting up a completely separate username and password. So that means that you could just log in with your Facebook account or etc., and it'll take you right in. These shortcuts are super tempting, especially when you're eager to place an order, join a discussion, but we want you to stop and pause and think about that for a minute. By using this option, you may be giving the new site more information about you than you need to. Are they only going to use it to authenticate and log you in? Or once they log you in, are they now going to have access to all your profile information for marketing purposes, everything you tweet, post, and etc.? Good question. Worse, if someone hijacks your social login information, they now can gain access to any of these third-party accounts as well. So that's the security concern as well. And if you've enabled access to third-party sites in Facebook, just keep in mind that you can review the sites that are logged in automatically by clicking apps on the left-hand side of the settings page in Facebook. And then you can choose to shut off the individual apps that may be integrated with Facebook individually, turning them on or off. Or you can disable all integration totally with third-party sites and applications by just changing a single setting as well too. So again, did you know you can do that? Keep that in mind. It's good to review and audit those features to know, well, what does have access to my account and is keeping tabs on everything that I do. And that kind of goes along with this next option, because if you do allow those things, more times than not, they are required to ask for permission for things. And, let's be honest, reading through everything when you get these permission requests, when you say, oh, yeah, I want to log in with Facebook, or it says, hey, would you like to allow us to look through your contacts so we know who you are already on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or etc. And we can go ahead and add them to your friends list? Very tempting, makes it easy. But then again, it can give access to a lot of things that you didn't want it to or didn't know that it was going to access. And it's sort of like those long legal disclaimers you see when you're creating an account somewhere and you're like, yeah, 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 I know. You're going to know something about my life. Just allow, get past it. I need my information. Well, that's where you have to be careful, especially on Facebook. You'll see these fun quizzes that promote a spot for the perfect dog, or the one I saw recently was, what Muppet would you be? Answer this quiz and find out. Here you go. We're going to go through them all, and you know, it's interesting because it's going to basically, to be able to do those things, many times are going to pop up and say, okay, thanks for clicking here. If you allow us access, we'll be able to fill this out and we can tell you exactly what Muppet you are. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, it's information siphoning everything out of your profile. So you want to be careful. You don't want it posting things without your permission, but they can easily woo you into surrendering your profile info and your friends. And this can easily build a list for spammers. And then all of a sudden, you're getting all this information. You're like, well, I'm not signing up for stuff, but it could have been that Muppet quiz on Facebook. Who knew? Passwords. Boy, we've hit this so many times in our webinars. Yeah, we know. Uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is not a good password, uh, but so are a lot of others. I thought this was very interesting. A lot of times people ask me, well, if I have a really long password, how soon could hackers really crack that password? Well, here's an interesting little chart that I found that gives you a idea of how long it would take. It's not real long, especially if it's just numbers, or numbers and letters if you only have 6 characters. And yeah, it's kind of sobering to look at that, isn't it? You just kind of glance through that and you start thinking about the passwords you used, and you thought they were complex because I can never remember them. But of course, hackers are using these algorithms to compute these things and put them together, and they can do it in no time flat. So, what do we learn from this? Don't store your passwords in your web browser, because if your phone or your laptop is stolen, saved passwords can provide access to social media accounts, your shopping sites, your email, all of which likely contain loads of information about your identity that a thief could use. Now, obviously, you want, or you need to protect your password on your computer too. So if you don't have a password on your computer, you really should at least do that minimum level. But also switch up your social media passwords immediately if there's any chance that you might be the victim of a data breach, or if you determine some type of personal information is out on the dark web, or someone said, "Hey, I think your Facebook account, your Instagram account, your Twitter account has been compromised." Change your passwords immediately. I know it's a pain, but use different passwords for each account site and make sure they're strong. Uh, Please ditch the sticky notes, the index cards, keeping your passwords in your contacts. Use something better like a password management program or app. We've talked about using the one called 1Password before. It works really, really well. There's others like LastPass that also work really well Two, these are going to encrypt and store all your passwords except for its own and let you enter and submit them with just a single click. That makes it super, super easy. Now, talking social media, we talked about cyberbullying before, and we can't not talk about our kids when it comes to social media and protecting them. If and when your kids use social media, you want to make sure that you're protecting them while on these social networks. Criminals can very easily prey on them because of their inexperience and being naive about things. And if their privacy and security settings aren't locked down, it can put their safety and personal information at risk. So just be careful. Be informed about what they're doing or what they're using. As in any group setting, if you can find folks of every stripe on social media, uh, from friends to what they call trolls to criminals. Uh, you know, good relationships are what keep us coming back, but it's a mistake to ignore or underestimate the efforts of people who are looking to do wrong, do bad, or even violent things via social media. So stay alert. Um, Adopt a few smart practices, and you can very easily socialize safely and keep your personal information safe for you and your kids. Yeah, a couple questions you can ask yourself. Have I recently performed an audit of privacy settings on my devices or my kids' devices? Good question to ask every now and then to help you stay safe. And of course, keep your devices updated. Uh, on top of the security tips, keeping your computer and your mobile devices fully updated is extremely important. Uh, if not just for the general security of those devices, but also for the individual updates you get for the programs and apps on them too. They can sometimes go overlooked since the updates can be automatic for the OS on your computer. Make sure you stay up to date on all the applications and keeping them updated. That'll help improve compliance, giving you options for controlling your privacy, giving you notifications, patching problems that the manufacturers found with their programs, and so forth. And then last but not least, kind of summarizing everything we've talked about here, stay informed. Limiting the amount of personal information you post is an informed decision. You just don't want to post information it's going to make you vulnerable, like your address or information about your schedule or your routine. If your connections post information about you, make sure the combined information is not more than you'd be comfortable with strangers knowing. And also be considerate when posting information, photos, or etc. about your connections. That shows them respect and it shows kindness on our part. And remember that the internet is a public resource. So there's always somebody looking, which could be strangers, and we want to be wary of them. And we want to be skeptical of things we read, things that request or friends notifications to allow access to things or to befriend us. So evaluate your settings, take advantage of the privacy settings you see. There are great resources on the Department of Justice website about keeping your kids safe. There's from the government that's one part of the government where they have some great tips. There's a whole section on staying safe on social media, also from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency from the government. And then there's the Cybersecurity Alliance, has great information and will keep you updated on different things that are happening. Why? The risk is there, but the best way to protect yourself is to stay informed and to stay active about what is changing and what's going on. And by doing that, you will set a really fine foundation for staying safe on social media. Again, those are only 10 steps, but by doing those 10 things, you will cover your bases and you'll enjoy your time using the social media, staying up to date with friends, sharing pictures of the fall colors, beautiful waterfalls, the sounds and sights of travel, maybe after you've done the trip, not during, uh, and staying friends with people from very long distances. Well, as always, we thank you for joining us for our webinar Wednesday. My name is Joe O'Donnell. We appreciate you attending today. Our topic for next month, for December 15th, is going to be talking with TimeSolve. They're a cloud-based, very popular time and billing system that we're going to be talking with them and discussing their product and their services. So we look forward to talking with them. We hope you can join us. Until then, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or any of us at Terrapin to info@terrapintechnology.com. Have a great day. Bye.